Suzan Skhosana is a passionate and dedicated cultural heritage expert. She has devoted her life to preserving and promoting the rich and diverse heritage of the Northwest Province as it relates to jazz music. Skhosana joined me earlier to speak about the importance of safeguarding our cultures and remembering the heroes of yesteryear. Let's learn more about her work and vision for the future. Let's talk about how you started this heritage project and what it means to you.
We are in the most important month of globally. Africa Month is well celebrated, and I also feel so honored to be invited here firstly by the Newzroom Afrika. It shows that there is something dynamic about the content of the African heritage that I'm pushing from as far as Kabalatsani village based in the Northwest.
I'd like to talk about the significance of the work that you're doing, and in reading up on the many papers that you've written, one of the things that you speak about is the unsung heroes, and in your view there are a number of these. Talk to us about some of them.
I'm from a family of professional musicians, a family of former parliamentarians, cultural activists in a nutshell, who are the international award-winning music teachers, but unknown in the country, but have played a very significant role in the culture and liberation struggle of Africa, basically in South Africa.
They say that a prophet is without honor in his hometown, and in many ways it speaks to this conversation that we are having at the moment. Yeah. Why do you feel that the world has got to celebrate our own talent before we recognize it ourselves?
We are not celebrated enough. It can be all over the papers, through media, to say it's a month of celebration, but less consideration is given to the underreported villages, especially the Northwest. So that's the reason I'm actually here to say we've got something tangible to say, let's celebrate. We have unsung stories, we have unsung heroes, and those kind of heroes that we have, they make, because of them not getting a limelight in the past, that makes them, that leaves them like the non-existing, heroes of the country. We look at the Gauteng, which makes it look like it's very rich. But if we can bring out the researchers, you'll find that there are underreported areas in SA, underreported provinces with so much rich history, hidden and untold.
Now, Kabalatsani village is something that you create in the Northwest. What are the stories that you tell, and certainly the moments and some of those heroes that you depict is my first question. And the second question is, as the home of certain aspects of culture, because it happened in the Northwest, and some of these individuals that you speak of originated from there, how do we bring it to the fore? What work needs to be done? Is it a need to collaborate? Are we not doing enough of that? How do we create enough awareness?
Villages are so disadvantaged in terms of privilege. There are so many producers from the villages. There are so many writers, so many arts and cultural, arts activists. Unfortunately, they are not given that privilege to take out the content that they have because of them being in disadvantaged areas. You look at the Northwest, I'll give an example with the artists, Northwest people who are into an art sector. Most of them, they relocate to Gauteng, and what does it tell you? It says there's still a lot of work to be done in Northwest Province in terms of government support. I mean, you'll find that giving an example with simple application for funding. Lately, through the use of technology, everything is done digitally. So you find that the villagers, they have no privilege to, to reach the standard of application for funding because of simple things like network. With the current situation taking place in the country of the load shedding, when people stay in suburbs and cities, they are privileged because there you find connection, whether there's load shedding or not. But with villages, it's a different scenario. Everything goes to a standstill.
There's almost a migration from rural to peri-urban to the city, from one city to a bigger city, and eventually you move to another country. You go to the hub of entertainment. I mean, you go to Hollywood, you go to Bollywood, you go where it's happening. You come to Johannesburg, if that's where the big players are. So what are the opportunities around collaboration? Because it is pretty clear that when you go to the Northwest or any other smaller province or smaller group of individuals that may be hugely talented, there is an expectation that their standard reaches a certain level, which is all too often found in the bigger cities. So how do we achieve collaboration? What are some of the opportunities that you've explored or ways in which you think that collaboration can be done?
I will give also an example before answering your question. With myself, I had to, because there's this word that is written that says, that reads, Gauteng is a place of gold. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's not a joke. It is indeed a place of gold because I had to leave Northwest in 2016 to go and to allow myself to be closer to funding institutions, to be closer to the mentorship, leaders, for myself to get a mentorship, for myself to be able to register an organization that can take care of, all the communities around my village, Kabalatsani, based in the Northwest. You ask yourself if there can be a support from the government by saying, okay, we are cutting off this movement of the villagers to spaces like Gauteng. Look at the literature part of it. We have the local schools traveling to Gauteng in order for themselves to get a glimpse of information written on my great-grandfather. There's a book titled Land and Lives, written by Dr. Elsa Miles Buter. It's documented, it was documented around the 90s. She came to the village direct to look for information on my great-granddad, who was an alias Unsung, a South African pioneer of contemporary art, and the first to build the school in Kabalatsani village. So you ask yourself, why these foreign movements, like from villages to Gauteng? Why can't we have our own cultural space where we stop this, this tours, remote tours to Gauteng? Because if you check lately, many kids, especially scholars, are raised by their grannies.
Suzan, certainly an intriguing conversation filled with culture, and part of all of that is the fact that you're a poet and you've got a little piece that you're going to perform for us. Talk to us about what it's called and what is it about.
The poem I'm about to perform is titled Kabalatsana Meriti. It's written over 100 years back by my great-granddad, Mecha Khasi, documented by white writers as O Micha or Misha Khasi, or Google Misha Khasi School in Kabalatsani village. In the past, there was drought. There was a problem of lack of education. There was a problem of lack of history, writing. There was a problem of literature. So he was amongst those earliest South African, introducers of literacy in the country. Also found amongst the first South African teachers. So there was a cry for help in the past, where he mentioned in the poem that the children are crying. Many people, they think when he says they are crying because of thirst, they think it's because of that drought that attacked Kabalatzan village. Hence, he was talking about lack of education in the black South African children. Though at that time it was Northern Transvaal, during the earliest kingdoms of the Northwest. So that's where he had to introduce education. And in 1921, he had to be the first founder of the first school for the village. And he had to also publish books saying people must not let them be kept down by whites, thinking it is their color of the skin that makes them superior to the black people. It is the type of education, the quality of the education that they had. It's also infused with a poem that, according to him, was a praise poem for the earliest Setswana women, first 3 Setswana women dresses that were worn in those ages. So there was a special poem for a special woman who was wearing a special dress, which was made out of a cow skin. So it reads as follows: introducing myself, ke le fatlhalwa bo mantegi, ka re ke le tsubusubulwa le fatla, ke le fatlhalwa mafatla a mafatla ka re phefe fatlile di tlou selemo ke reka kgwedi ya matlhabanaga nna mme ga nkiletse ke boka lwampona ke le gapatshonyana ke kgwa mabje ke re dumelang bagaetso ke nna Mantela ne kwenanyana mo gobe ngwanyana morolong o moseso motlokolo motjolo makgakga a khantshang bo bokwena ke morupi o kubela go tsene matsepe tlogolo sa khasia mmakgwalepe ka re tlogolo sa koko mmalampiti moke ko la setlhuleng sefatlego ke tsao di kakana ke motswa gole ke ra khole kgwensa kgabalatsana moriti re ke reta ke anagela ke re kgabalatsana moriti naga di kgomo le batho naga ke lala le nato ke letse kgabalatsana moriti naga isnang sekhupi sa yona se sengwe. Oh, se khopisa yona lenyora le bona kgaetsatsi le ema ao modiwana bo le khele go lara kwa rapopele dipetlwane di sala kwa mapena ne bana ba gao kwa gae balela ba pelo e botlhoko ba re modiwana mmaetso re amuse Afrika la le lenyoro le teng re oh khabalatsana moriti gomola mosabetsana gomola ke go belege ka tharia namane. Thank you.
And on that poetic note, that's where we leave it, Africa. I'll see you again next Thursday.